I do think Mbilli is a bit of a step up from Berlanga. Like, for example, I think Mbilli is going to try to win the fight and maybe even get himself knocked out in the process. But I just think that, he fits the bill.
It is time for Boxing Scene's top stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George DeMatteis. Download the ProBox TV app where apps are available, because on the app you can watch our November 1st fight card live from Belfast, Northern Ireland. It is going to be a fantastic fight card with Jimmy Smith, Paulie Malignaggi, and Chris Algieri ringside in Northern Ireland. And speaking of those tremendous trio, Jimmy, Bob Arum looking to sprinkle some magic.
He always does. He has two cards when it comes to Canelo Alvarez's next fight. It's Christian Mbilli and Artur Beterbiev, of course, the undisputed light heavyweight champion. Can he use those cards, in a sense, to set up a fight with Canelo Alvarez? Well, he was at the WBO convention in Puerto Rico, where our own Ricardo Celis caught up with him. This is what the Bob father had to say.
Eddie Reynoso is the Oscar Valdez trainer. They said that Canelo's gonna be in that fight with Oscar Valdez versus Navarrete. Is there's a rumor that you might have a meeting with Canelo Alvarez to see if he can fight Beterbiev?
Well, it's just so people realize, Eddie Reynoso, who trains Canelo, also trains Oscar Valdez. Mm-hmm. And because he's been Oscar Valdez's trainer, I'm a friend of Eddie. I mean, I really have great respect for him. I've also become a friend of Canelo. That doesn't mean I'm going to promote Canelo's next fight or any fight for Canelo. If it turns out that there's an opportunity and it's worthwhile for Canelo and for Top Rank, sure, I would promote him. But again, I'm not going to try to push Top Rank on them. They're not going to push Canelo on me. If there is a community of interest between the two of us, sure. But I don't want you to read anything incorrectly. I mean, Canelo has done very well in boxing financially and with his career without Top Rank, and maybe he'll continue to do that. So again, I haven't had a discussion in years with Eddie or with Canelo about a Canelo fight. Maybe I will in Phoenix in December. Maybe I won't, because they're there to support Oscar Valdez.
Canelo, he has his pick of opponents. With what is here, Paulie, where do you think he goes? I know you like to talk about how he picks opponents. Based on how he picks opponents, who do you think's next?
I mean, I think Mbilli is a distinct possibility. He's pretty good. He's got an exciting style. He's not going to really sell well here in the United States because he's not really a known entity. Canelo will pull that one out of his ass when he needs it. When you don't fight you, he'll use that against you. But when you sell well and he wants to use it against you because he doesn't want to fight you, he'll pull it out and use that against you as well. So that one's just an interchanging excuse that he doesn't really need to use for Mbilli, because Mbili's style is sort of fun. It's exciting. It goes straight ahead. It's not ultra dangerous. I don't think he's ultra strong, but it's gonna presents an undefeated guy, possibly a little bit of a higher level step up than Berlanga was, right? I think Mbilli will come to win, so Mbilli could get knocked out. I don't think Beterbiev is an option. I don't even know why people waste their time talking about Beterbiev. I don't know that that's the direction he's going to go in.
When you look at it, Chris, the problem is the web of obligations, where Eddie Reynoso has said he is loyal to PBC, where Canelo's had his last two fights. Of course, PBC and Top Rank have a little bit of a rivalry going on. Top Rank, their deal with ESPN expires this summer, so we don't know where a fight would end up should it happen. Chris, with all these webs and connections and all these things, what fight do you seems most likely? And remember, Turki Al-Sheikh can always come in and lay a Brinks truck full of money to make the Terrence Crawford fight work. What do you think is most likely, Chris?
Yeah, and that's the thing about boxing. Anything can happen at any time. And, if you just listen, I love Bob, but that was the most political promotion response I've ever seen. He said a whole lot without saying a whole lot, because what you just alluded to, Jimmy. There's a lot of different routes that this can go. And at the end of the day, Canelo does what Canelo wants to do. He's gonna pick who he's fighting. I don't think he picks Beterbiev. That fight, that's not gonna happen. He's not going back up to 75. He's not fighting Beterbiev. I think Mbilli makes the most sense. I've been saying that for months. As soon as I saw Mbilli and Derevyanchenko, I'm like, that's Canelo's next fight. It makes way too much sense for the way that he's been moving lately, and historically. You know, you got an undefeated guy. He's got the look. Yeah, he's not that popular, but you know, he's going to come and bring it. He's an entertaining style. They're going to make a great highlight package of him, which he's got tons of great fights to put out there. And you know, they'll sell it, and people will buy it, and we'll watch it. I still think the Chris Eubank fight happens, but just not going to be next. Obviously, it doesn't seem like it. I think that, you know, you got Canelo goes over to Wembley, sells out 100,000 people, and gets to fight a local star. And I think the problem with that right now is that he's not ranked at 168. Because Chris Eubank has been campaigning at 160 lately. But yeah, in terms of what's going to happen next, that's what I see. I think it's going to be Mbilli, and then most likely Chris Eubank Jr., if not like a Caleb Plant down the line. But obviously Bob is trying to get his fighters in there first. You know, Mbilli would be next. He's talking about Beterbiev, but I don't think that's realistic, and it's probably just getting even more attention for the Bivol fight, throwing the Canelo name in the mix.
When you look at it, Paulie, with the idea that Christian Mbilli doesn't sell that well, he isn't the greatest guy on the mic. I remember Mike Tyson, Tony Tubbs. I remember star fighters fighting guys who weren't that good, but people tuned in anyway. Is this the kind of sense where Canelo's gotten big enough to sell a fight all on his own? It really doesn't matter what Christian Mbilli brings. What do you think?
Yeah, Tony Tubbs had been heavyweight champion though. You know, he had been WBA heavyweight champion. So there's, you know, you got to work off of some kind of resume. And I know, honestly, I do think Mbilli is a bit of a step up from Berlanga. You know, I for example, I think Mbilli is going to try to win the fight and maybe even get himself knocked out in the process. But I just think that, you know, he fits the bill. There's a little bit of a certain, you know, you got to fit in a certain box to be a Canelo opponent. You've got to have a good resume, decent resume in terms of being able to sell on paper. And Mbilli's undefeated record does that. You got to be pretty good, but one-dimensional, so that Canelo doesn't have to think too much. That way, Canelo can look like the high IQ fighter that everybody thinks he is. Because if you got too much of an IQ, then you'll expose a lot of what he might not have. You know, so Mbilli has that. You know, Mbilli just comes straight ahead. He puts in a lot of effort. He throws every punch hard, so you can kind of time him. You can see it coming, and then you know, I mean, it's a fight that could be fun because Mbilli is limited enough, but good enough to where he's always coming forward, and he's an exciting fighter coming forward. As far as though the selling point, I mean, again, I don't want to beat on dead horse here, but yeah, I'm gonna call it out because nobody else does. I mean, this is a guy that if he was ultra dangerous and if he was ultra good, Canelo would say he's not known enough in the U.S. for him to fight, you know. But because he's just the right kind of guy, I think he's gonna fit the bill for this kind of opponent. And I think that's going to continue to be the case now and in the future. As far as Beterbiev, I mean, I think, you know, Bob is smart in using the name Beterbiev to try to keep promoting, because you link his name to Canelo, it keeps Beterbiev in the conversation. I think Beterbiev has been massively under promoted in his career because everybody's wanted to avoid him, you know. So I think it's smart of Bob to use the Beterbiev name in connection with Canelo, even if the winner of our show Friday between McCrory and Carrillo probably has a better chance of getting a Canelo fight than does Beterbiev, you know. Nonetheless, you know, you still use that name, and you know, you try to promote your guy. So I think that was smart of Bob, but you know, that's not something that's going to happen. Like the champ said, I think it's going to be Mbilli, and these types.
When you look at it, Chris, last thing, we haven't brought up Dmitry Bivol after his loss to Beterbiev. Do you think a rematch is more likely with Beterbiev, or would he even talk about maybe fighting Canelo for that rematch fight? Do you think that's even a possibility at all?
I mean, Canelo might throw it out there because he's been saying he wants to get his revenge, but that fight ain't happening either. He's not going back up to 75. He just doesn't beat Bivol. The styles just don't match up. I don't think he ever beat Bivol. And 75 is just it's a bridge too far. He caught Kovalev at a very specific time, was able to get that win in a very exciting fashion. But I don't know why he went back to the well again. 175 is not where Canelo belongs. You know, and him just calling out these guys and saying their names is basically just for that. It's just to call them out, just to get some headlines, because everything he says gets covered. But yeah, I don't see him campaigning at 75, especially fighting either Bivol or Beterbiev.
Well, it's still at 68. We'll see what the big fish is. Get caught by Canelo. As soon as it makes news, we'll know about it. Back to you, Georgie.
Thank you very much, fellas. Always fascinating when you talk about Canelo Alvarez and his future next opponent. And you know what else is fascinating? When you scan the QR code and you also like, subscribe, and leave your comments here on our YouTube channel. Download the ProBox TV app where apps are available. November 1st, Belfast, Northern Ireland. It is going to be a fantastic card. The main event, McCrory versus Carrillo. You can see it on our YouTube channel and on the app as well. I am George DeMatteis, and this is Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
November 1st, ProBox TV makes its European debut in collaboration with Conlan Boxing. This stacked card starts with hometown fighter Padraig the Hammer McCrory returning to the ring to take on the hard-hitting Colombian Leonard Carrillo. And in the co-main, the UK's Robbie Davies Jr. clashes with former two-weight world champ Javier Fortuna of the Dominican Republic. Live from the SSE Arena in Belfast, Northern Ireland.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.